do as I say, not as I buy. Hey there, today I have an unboxing video, and in this video I'm going to open up a couple of orders that I placed. And these orders I placed with Unknown Comics, and it includes, I would say, not necessarily books I'm embarrassed to show you. There's nothing risque or anything of that nature. So if you're looking forward to that, my apologies. But a little embarrassed just because I think that I often talk about buying strategies and looking for value picks and all of these things. And then there are times where how to avoid FOMO and just avoiding avoiding impulse buying. And then I go and I do those things. And I feel bad, but I also feel good because I'm able to participate in some buying scenarios that simply just has to satisfy these parts of who I am as a collector. And with these two particular orders, it's filled with store exclusives and a couple of retailer incentives that I took a chance on. And I'm excited to open these and take a look and check out the condition. I'm also kind of being fully transparent here with some ulterior motives of mine. I am also trying to gather up my next 25 book pre-screen to send off to CGC. And I'm about 3 or 4 books short of the 25. I'm not going to send 29 again. I'm going to only send 25. And what I'm hoping is that some of these exclusives, or maybe I can kind of pare it down to 3 that make sense and include that in my next 25 book pre-screen. So as soon as I unbox this and I take a look at the books that I got, if I can assess them quickly and figure out, yep, these are pretty much 9/8 without a press, they're going to be included in my next submission. Now, based on my ordering history, I will order from Unknown Comics maybe 2-3 times a year at most. And the typical trigger is that bit of FOMO where I see a retailer incentive that a lot of folks are talking about. Maybe it's of a particular artist that's up and coming, or it's a hot artist. And there are a lot of times where you are allowed to just straight away pre-order that book from some selected online stores. Things from Another World, Unknown Comic Books, Third Eye Comics, those are a few that come to mind where you can actually pop on and see the book and see the retailer incentive and look at the price and just straight up check out, and it's added as a pre-order, and when the book becomes available, then they send it out. So these couple of orders I placed right around Thanksgiving, around the Black Friday holiday sale weekend thing, and a lot of these online stores were pushing, buy 2 get some free, buy 3 get 3 free, or maybe they started with the BOGO and then upped it to 3. It was just kind of all these wild and crazy, dare I say, desperate attempts to create some bit of sales here at the tail end of 2022, as I think the comic book market was starting to slip, or you could just say that folks were just kind of tightening up and maybe not spending the kind of money that they typically would on collectibles like comic books. So what I'd like to do is unbox these 2 orders, show you the books that I picked up, and then talk about my strategy for waiting for these types of deals. And I'll show you what I ended up paying for these. There's not a lot of market data because these are fairly new exclusives and new incentives. So not a lot of reported sales, and certainly I don't think any of them have been reported at CGC quite yet. But I'll show you my buying strategy at least so that you can see why I placed the orders the way that I did, but also I'm just trying to justify the purchases. So please bear with me as I go through this unboxing. I gave into the FOMO, I gave into the store exclusive hype. So let's check out the comic books that I picked up. All right, here we go. I got 2 boxes. I've got a little tiny box from Unknown, and then I've got a big boy box that I'm going to open. So let me tear through these. They both were sent separately, priority mail. I don't know why they didn't combine it. They arrived the same day, but it doesn't matter, and I'm going to open them now. Okay, I made it in. Boy, that was a really fun and interesting unpacking of these store exclusives that I'm going to open first. That thing was bulletproof. I think that the only where you have to kind of balance packing and order is you want to ship the order securely and safely, but not make it so that the recipient of the order is tearing through like with a hatchet trying to get through this thing, because I am always deathly afraid of slicing through comics or trying to get the bubble wrap or envelope out and just bending everything. You have to balance the opening of these orders between tearing your way through and very gently slicing and tearing bubble wrap and so forth. So let's get to these and take a look and see what I picked up. Now, everything that I ordered from Unknown Comics, it was a trade dress and full art combo pack. And I'll kind of explain like how the pricing and all of that worked out after I show you the comics, but just keep that in mind. So each of these is one of those combos. All right, the first one here is Scarlet Witch #1, and this is the absolutely stunning and gorgeous variant by David Nakayama. I have quite a number of Nakayama's books, and when I saw this one, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm getting that one. And the general thought, I guess, out there, or the advice is certainly if you're into store exclusives, there's nothing wrong with that. There is no judgment. It's just that you can't always look at these as an investment. So this is where I really think it goes against my own better judgment or the things that I talk about on this channel. And this is just going to be just straight comic book love where you're just buying it because you want to. It's just, there's nothing else to it. Again, the goal here is to pick out maybe 3 of these to include in my next 25 pre-screen order. And my goodness, I would love for this book to be one of those 3, but we'll see. Even the one with the trade, I think it's not specifically a minimal trade dress, but I love the framing on this one where it just has Scarlet Witch up there with Marvel in #1, and it looks like what happened is in the editing, they just changed the scale of Wanda to make it so the trade dress didn't go over her face. And I kind of wish they would all do that. Sometimes you get these full art variants and the character starts at the bottom and you've got these extra white space or blank, just kind of background art at the top. I like that they made this almost full size, so this would look gorgeous in a slab. But a new series by Marvel, Scarlet Witch, and that is issue #1. Next up is Wolverine 28, and this is the store exclusive variant by Sabine Rich. I have a lot of Sabine Rich books as well. When I was trying to find books to make sure that I had the buy one get one free going, I would just search by artist. I would search by character. The online stores they're trying to push a lot of books in front of you, but when you get down page 3, page 4, page 5 of like 30, sometimes you kind of give up and you have to leverage the search instead of just the browse feature. And Sabine Rich has always kind of got like a David Mack or Christian Ward sort of feel, although it's more, I don't want to say like pencil-y, but it feels more like a painted sketch, and I really like it. It's got like a watercolor type feel. So here's the full art version, and this is what I was saying before, where if you don't resize them, then you've got the character just there with a bunch of extra background. It would have been great if her hair maybe started closer to the top. But again, I like the idea of the full art version because when you've got it encased in the professional grading slab, whether it's CGC or CBCS, you've got that acting almost as the trade dress. So that's Wolverine 28, the Sabine Rich store exclusive. Next is Star Wars High Republic #2, and this is the variant by Tyler Kirkham. I believe Kirkham's pretty much just doing store exclusives exclusively, and I'm not like a super huge fan of the cover art. I think it's excellent, very engaging and compelling, but buying it because I'm into the new Star Wars High Republic series, High Republic Volume 2, and trying to make sure I have the first batch of key issues here, and that is Star Wars High Republic 2, the store exclusive by Tyler Kirkham. Next is Amazing Spider-Man #14, and this is the store exclusive variant by the artist named Rico, spelled R1C0, I believe. And this features the character Hallows Eve, And I noticed that Rico specifically has some really, really great store exclusives. And this was like kind of an opportunity to get a great cover from a great artist, and then also trying to marry that up with a character's first appearance, her first cover appearance. There was some chatter around Hallows Eve around this time, and wanted to go ahead and grab these. And I get caught up, especially around Halloween, looking for Halloween themed covers, maybe to add as decoration, or older horror books that would be appropriate to display. So I'd love to put these out next Halloween. That's Amazing Spider-Man 14, store exclusive from Rico. All right, back to David Nakayama. This is Avengers X-Men Eternals Judgment Day Omega, or Axe Omega, and also the Hellfire Gala 2020. I mean, it was a lot just to describe what this book is, but this one was interesting to me for many reasons, but I'll just talk about one of those reasons. And there was a run of store exclusives over the last few years where the artist is trying to take kind of like a magazine cover approach. And even though it's very busy, it just sort of works. It looks like something that would be in the magazine section or sitting at the checkout aisle at a grocery store. It absolutely has that sort of flavor and design. So I think a lot went into this as far as the choosing of the fonts, the colors, and how everything's playing off each other. Again, you can't go wrong with David Nakayama. And then if that is a little bit too busy, or you don't find that as interesting, because again, there's a lot of text on this cover. It was just hard enough for me to describe the title of this book, but you could see there's just so many different words and fonts and letters and things like that. But then beyond that, if you're like, okay, it's kind of hiding the character, now you've got the full art version, which also is equally as awesome. So that's Psylocke there in her Hellfire 2022 getup. And I'm not going to repeat the title here. Let's just call it Axe Omega 1, or the Axe Omega one shot from Marvel as part of that Judgment Day crossover. Next is Tiger Division #1. And this is covered by Lobos, who seems to be like one of the artists that a lot of speculators are hitching their wagons to. You'll find this every so often where a particular influencer will discover it. Well, they think that they've discovered an artist, like they're the first ones to really talk about an artist, and then they hold on to it like, I was the first one, I discovered this artist. It's a little disrespectful to the artist, because I think the artist is always trying to get their best work out there and is looking for the attention, and the speculators of course make it about them and about how they discovered, and it's one of those where I definitely get annoyed, but then I realize you have got to at least participate in some of what they're pushing, because typically if enough of them push a book, a character, or an artist, you don't want to be left behind because there's an opportunity there. And I think this was a good combination. I wanted to take a shot at the Tiger Division story, getting the first issue, and there's no denying the talent of Lobos, and for me in particular too, kind of zoom in on the art, or maybe go with the full art here. Definitely some similarities to the great Adam Hughes, which I'm a fan of. So you can keep an eye on this artist, Lobos, and this series, Tiger Division. This is, again, the trade dress and the full art store exclusive. And the last one from the store exclusive batch is, as if I don't have enough, Mandalorian #1, Star Wars The Mandalorian #1, and this is the Alex Maleev variant edition. Now, when I first saw this, I was not so sure that this was a cover that I wanted to have. I had pre-ordered quite a bit of Mandalorian #1. Frankly, my first order that kind of came back from a different store, most of the books were in like the 994 range, and I kind of got disappointed, and then I had to go back and regroup and find some of the other retailer incentives and rebuy them again in hopes to get some 9.8s, and I've started to get some 9.8s on those. And then I just sort of, I had an abundance. There was too many of these Mandalorian #1s produced, and I purchased way too many, so I was part of the problem. And when I went back to Unknown Comics, and I was looking at their holiday pricing, I saw that they had this, it was in stock, and I just kind of saw it from afar, and although I'm an Alex Maleev fan, I just felt like it just wasn't a cover that I was going to go after. And then on second thought, I looked at it and I started to honestly compare it to the other covers. And if we zoom in really on Mando and Grogu, it's great. It reminds me of when I was doing some interior decorating in the house, and the contractor showed me some materials, and I immediately said no. And then 15 minutes later, I said, well, how about those? And he's like, well, those are the first ones I showed you and you dismissed it. It's exactly that. My first instinct sometimes on these, it's just wrong. And I looked again, this is fantastic Malieve art. Absolutely stunning, especially cool in this full art version. I'm hoping that this grades out at a 9.8, because if it does, this will absolutely be one of the three that I include on my next 25 book pre-screen. This and the David Aja book are probably my favorite two covers of Mandalorian #1. So I'm happy that I was wrong at first about this book, happy that Unknown Comics had this set still in stock, and absolutely happy to have them finally here in my collection. So that completes the store exclusive order from Unknown Comics. And now I will show you the other smaller order of books that I ordered from Unknown Comics that I received at the same time, that includes a couple of retailer incentives. Now here is the second of the two Unknown Comic Books orders. They arrived at the same time, and I think I said that this one did not include any store exclusives, and I think these two are, so I apologize for continually lying to you. This is Grimm #6 with a cover art by Jenny Frison that I thought was absolutely stunning. Every time I see a Frison cover like this, it's just the best. The in color red, black, and pink, and then the black, white, and gray, or the grayscale version. Definitely reminds me of some of those Something is Killing the Children exclusive variants, but my gosh, when she is on, she's on fire. It's just absolutely magnificent, stunning artwork. Would love to see this also in a slab. So I'm hoping between all of these books that I'm opening that some of these are 9.8, but Grimm from Boom Studios, independent story, been buying a lot of those books. I think the initial hype has come down, where there was a run of independent stories and everyone was saying, this story is the next Something is Killing the Children, and even Something is Killing the Children has come back down to earth in terms of popularity, desirability, value. I think it's kind of evening out. It's still, some of the early books are still valuable and expensive, but it's not crazy astronomical out of reach. And because of that title falling back down to earth, a lot of these other titles and series and stories that were compared to it, even though they're different types of stories, they were comparing it in terms of, I think, value more than anything. You can go back and pick up issues of Grimm or 8 Billion Genies, and they're all very accessible and affordable. But I don't really care about any of that right now. I just absolutely love both of these covers to Grimm #6 by Jenny Frison. Now, the last two books, I do promise you, are retailer incentives, and we're going all the way back to the beginning of this video with Scarlet Witch #1. And this is the 1 in 25 retailer incentive cover by Pepe Larraz. I love Larraz's artwork, big fan of his on X-Men. And with Scarlet Witch being one of my favorite characters, certainly enhanced by WandaVision, her role in Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness, but just such a historical character in the Marvel Universe, now back in her own series. I was just kind of falling in love with all of the covers, store exclusives, the Russell Dodderman cover A, all of them I just absolutely loved. And when I saw Larraz was doing the 1 in 25, I went ahead and pre-ordered this one as well. And then just to finish things off consistently while I was there, picking up the 1 in 25, I also got the Ivan Tao 1 in 100 full art retailer incentive of Scarlet Witch #1. And thank you, Unknown Comics. It was shipped in this top loader, so it's super sturdy here to ensure that if something were to happen to this order, it's unlikely that this book would get damaged. It looks like it does also include a piece of, is that Wanda's hair? Like coming out of the, oh, that's nasty right there. That's cool. Thanks, Unknown Comics, for that little bonus. The bit of human hair that is attached to the piece of tape. Right there you can see. So that, I don't know why I keep touching, that's pretty gross. But yeah, there it is with the bit of hair along with it. So I'm going to carefully get rid of that. Thank you for that bonus. But I remember seeing this, and this too had kind of like the commentary with Lobos, had some additional heat on the book because Tao is one of those artists that a lot of folks are overly hyped about. I'm not sure how to exactly describe the signaling that goes on with some of the artists, but so this was basically the perfect storm for me. Scarlet Witch, an up and coming artist, or I would say established artist at this point, that's gaining in popularity, a 1 in 100, and just a beautiful, sort of stylistic, creepy yet very colorful and stunning cover by Tao. And I think when it's all said and done, I got a pretty good deal on it in terms of paying a reasonable pre-order price. So those are the two orders from Unknown Comics that include quite a few store exclusives and a couple of retailer incentives. So let me show you at least what I paid for these, because if I am going to indulge in a couple of orders like this, I do want to make sure that I maximize my savings so that I spend the least amount of money. All right, here are the two orders that I placed with Unknown Comics 9 days apart back on November 16th and November 25th, 2022. That first order I showed you was that store exclusive order. And what I ended up doing was splitting the order up between the full art and the trade dress. And I usually give a little bit of a bump to the full art version. Those are typically more expensive if you try and buy them standalone. And each of these sets were $30, except for the Mandalorian #1 by Malieve. It was $45. Now, for that one, I gave $30 to the full art, $15 to the trade, and that was pretty much kind of like a standalone order by itself. It was just, though there was no additional bonus or coupon or offer on that one. So I kind of left that one alone. Now, the others were $30 each, and what I ended up doing is putting in the full art version as $20 and then the trade version as 10. But I bought three, and it was a buy three, get three free. So instead of deciding which three I got for free and putting them in as 0, I split the difference and split them all in half. And so that's why you can see these specific lines in my ledger here as $10 instead of 15, because I basically split them. So these lines are what I'm going to designate as the full art versions at $10. I really thought $10 for those exclusives. It was just a deal. It was really hard for me to pass up when I was falling in love with all of those covers and wanted to make sure that I had the full art trade dress combo there. So that's kind of how the numbers worked out. So in total, what I'm calling the store exclusive order was $135. But I paid nothing to have them shipped and 0 in tax. And that is such a huge deal to me, to make sure that you get above their threshold for free shipping, because if you saw in that bigger box that had all of the packing peanuts and everything like that, it would cost somewhere between like $17 and $22, something like that, to have it shipped. And then that's where, even though I was getting a deal, your $10 full art comic becomes 12, becomes 14, depending on how many you order. And then maybe there's tax. So the ability for me to acquire all of these books with no shipping, no tax, and then get a buy three, get three free, it feels great to get those store exclusives for basically $5. I would say too, if you're dabbling in mystery boxes, or you see stores like Unknown and other online stores put together mystery boxes, and they say, oh, we're going to include store exclusives, and we're going to include full art virgin covers. Maybe you get 2 of those and 5 of these, and it's going to be $100. Realize that a lot of what I showed you are going to be in those mystery boxes, or probably more likely store exclusives that you don't really want, or you hadn't seen, or you wouldn't have bought anyway. And you wonder, well, how can they sell the mystery box for so less? Because isn't that like $5 or $10 a book? It's exactly what it is, and that's what this is. So I essentially built my own mystery box of comics that I would actually love, and I would consider spending additional money on top of it to send to CGC. And so I would rather build my own mystery and solve it myself, because I know how this is going to end, instead of letting the store figure out which books they should include. So that was the store exclusive order, and I don't have values for these yet. I'm not going to look at recently sold copies of these books on eBay or anything like that. It's going to take a little bit of time for some of these, probably a good 3 to 6 months, to see actual FMVs kick in. So there's not much to see in terms of fair market value. But I wanted to go over the last order as well. Same thing, I unlocked free shipping. It was $148 total on those 4 books. What I ended up doing with the Grimm #6 Jenny Frison 2-pack is I put one of them at 25 and one of them at 15. I think one is more rare than the other, so that's just kind of how I worked out those numbers. And then the Tau Scarlet Witch #1, 1 in 100, was on sale at the time for $90. And I think I did search for this book quite a bit, and that was the cheapest. I think everyone was trying to sell it at ratio. Some of the stores, it was ridiculous at $150 to $200, I think, because, again, you've got online stores that are also attached to comic book influencers and folks that hype up books and artists. So I think that they feed off of each other a little bit. And so you'll have some speculators say, oh, the Ivan Tao Scarlet Witch is amazing. And the online store that they're affiliated with, they hear that and go, oh, well, my buddy's going to hype this book, so I better put it at 150. And I think the two different entities get caught up in thinking a book is worth more than it is. And of course, they're trying to transfer that bit of FOMO to you, the consumer. And while I appreciate all those efforts, I'm able to go over to Unknown Comics that allowed me to pre-order the book at a more reasonable price. Again, $90 for a retailer incentive. Is that reasonable? I guess we could debate that and argue that, but it was a book that I wanted to have. And so that I spent the money, and I'm anxious to grade that one out, and that's what I got it for. Same thing with the 1 in 25. It was discounted off ratio at $18 instead of $25 or $50 that the other stores had it for at the time. So I felt I got that at a reasonable price. And then, again, just to sort of justify all of this in my own head, no tax, no shipping. So while $90 is a lot for a book, if you wanted it and wanted it brand new, it could have been $100 at another store, plus tax, plus shipping, and then you're somewhere in upwards of 100, somewhere between 110, 125, $130. So those are the numbers, and that's what I paid. And I know I'm trying to really, really sell you and justify my purchases here by talking about how I didn't have to pay for shipping on these books. But like I said, I have to find a balance between me knowing that it is just a pure indulgence. It is a stack of impulse buys. Like I do know that. And then in the back of my mind, I have a lot of voices telling me things, but there's that one voice that's saying, for that amount of money, you could have gone and bought that key that you've always wanted. If you took the two orders and combined what I spent on those, I could have had, maybe some books more like these behind me. And isn't that what you want to do? And then I have to squelch that voice and say, no, I want these books. No, I don't. I let the voices just kind of battle it out is kind of how I work through it. But it is one of those where I can't deny that store exclusives and retailer incentives, it's part of my collection. It may not be part of yours, but it's part of mine. Is it a significant part? No, but have I done well with incentives? Yeah, I have. Have I done poorly? Yes. I've done both. It's one of those where if you can't sustain a specific model or a way of collecting, and you feel like it's by trying to stay so strict that it's strangling your enjoyment of something, then you have to kind of let loose a little bit. And that's exactly what I do. And this is an example of one of those orders where you can see it's even difficult for me to talk about because I know it does not line up with my strategy that I know works and I know is best for me, but I want to have a little fun sometimes. And this was an absolutely fun order. I keep staring at the books, that Judgment Day Omega, the one with Psylocke on it. I mean, I'm looking at, they're great. They're wonderful covers. They're from artists that I love. And I'm going to really enjoy assessing these and grading these. And then you'll probably see a few of these pop up in a future CGC unboxing because I am going to include the best 9.8 candidates out of these two orders and include those in my next submission. Would love to hear your feedback in the comments as far as, do you allow yourself to participate in some store exclusive buying? Do you exclusively buy store exclusives? Is that all you buy? I feel like the store exclusive market or store exclusive collectors or that whole thing, I think it can sometimes be very divisive in the community. But at this point, I don't really care. I got some great books. Thanks for watching. Happy collecting, and see you next time.